The Immortal is an isometric adventure game released for the Sega Mega Drive in 1990. The main plot of The Immortal revolves around a wizard attempting to find his mentor in a large, dangerous labyrinth. The game begins with the player in control of an unnamed wizard. In the first room, the player is given the option of viewing the image of the character's mentor, another wizard named Mortimer. Mortimer is calling for help from deep down below in the labyrinth, although he's attempting to communicate with another man called Dunrick. There are two main types of enemies in the dungeon. You've got goblins, trolls, and they are both at war with one another. This then leads to a minor plot element in the game. Depending on the player's actions in the early stages of the game, it's also possible for the main character to form an alliance with these races. The majority of the story is revealed through dream sequences which are triggered when the main character rests on straw beds, which are located throughout the labyrinth, and that more or less sums up the storyline without giving too much away. Obviously, when you start in the game, you'll begin on the top levels of the labyrinth and you've got to make your way down. The player will also collect items and solve puzzles and use magic spells in the form of books and scrolls. The combat in the game is offered in the form of non-playable characters wandering or protecting specific portions of the map. Upon coming into contact with these characters, the gameplay shifts from the standard isometric view to a zoomed-in two-dimensional real-time combat mode. The real-time battle engine is limited to dodging an opponent's attacks and performing sword swings and stabs. While fireball spells can be used to dispatch enemies on the isometric field, they cannot be used once the game has entered combat mode. In addition to walking, certain levels allow the main character to possess a magic carpet that flies and paddle through the water while sitting on a floating barrel. Graphically, at the time, this game looked amazing for the Sega Mega Drive. More or less every sprite in the game has large numbers of frames of animation, making every single move a joy to watch. From decapitating an enemy's head to electrocuting him with his staff, every single animation in this game looks beautiful and it just oozes atmosphere. And that's one of the highlights of The Immortal. While it does have beautifully drawn sprites, atmospheric music and a great art style, the actual gameplay is extremely infuriating. While the majority of people mistaken this particular release as an RPG, it is probably best described as a linear action adventure game with the isometric viewpoint. The game has a very strict set path, so if you try to deviate or use any particular magic powers which you're not supposed to at a certain time, you're basically broken the game, so you'll have to start at the beginning of the level again if you've screwed up. And while the game is very unforgiving in nature, it doesn't necessarily make it a bad game. It just means that you need to give it a lot of patience, and it's a case of a lot of trial and error, which may infuriate a lot of players. But saying that, there is a level of satisfaction which you cannot get with any other game when you complete a level on The Immortal. I really do think it is the atmosphere and mystery of the overall labyrinth which does pull you in, and it makes you crave for more and keep you on playing regardless of the high difficulty setting. But it is one of those games that when it clicks, it really does work, but when it does infuriate, it gets so annoying that you just want to turn the console off and snap your controller in half. So it is only natural when you talk to people about The Immortal that they do have polarising opinions on it. Some people absolutely love the game and the dripping atmosphere, whereas some people just couldn't get past the first couple of levels and just turned the game off and never went back to it again. For me, it is one of those underrated Mega Drive classics. As a kid, I loved anything with blood and guts and plenty of dark atmosphere, so I lapped this game up and still stuck with it, even though it pissed me off so much. In today's market, if you're interested in playing The Immortal, which I highly recommend that you do, it is still very cheap to get hold of. And if you're one of those people that likes to shop on eBay, it's still fairly cheap on there as well. Just don't pay in anything of excess of £10. So overall, if you do appreciate a gaming experience which doesn't hold your hand and is dripping with atmosphere and will stick with you even after you've turned the console off, then I would highly recommend The Immortal. You won't regret it.